We welcome you back to the Patrick Netherton Show right here on 1130 The Tiger. Very pleased to have you with us. A beautiful day. Looking forward to a big, big weekend. And a guy that is in the middle of the craziest atmosphere all weekend is College Gameday, ESPN's Desmond Howard, former Heisman Trophy winner, who is joining us from Baton Rouge. Desmond, first of all, thank you so much for your time. I'm curious, when you get down there, do you get a feel for what the atmosphere is like as you get into town and start to get things ramped up for game day and whatnot? Can you feel the energy level that's going on?
Yeah, fortunately for me, when I come to town with game day, it's usually, one of the biggest games of the weekend. And obviously, they schedule some of their biggest games at nighttime. So that only just adds to the electricity of the atmosphere. But, yeah, you can feel it because everyone knows that come Saturday night, it's going to be a huge game against the Florida Gators. And, they watched what the Florida Gators did to Auburn a week ago. So you just hear it. It's a tremendous buzz around the campus right now. Everyone's anticipating Saturday night's game.
I'm curious, do you go out at all? I mean, I know you and the crew will go and have a nice dinner somewhere, that kind of thing, but do you ever go out in amongst the folks that are out there? Do you go get out in the tailgate at all to kind of look around? Do you walk around campus? Do you do any of that stuff when you're on location?
Well, I don't tailgate. I definitely don't do that. I do walk around, not aimlessly. Normally I have a destination in mind. I may be going to like a store, or I may be going to, like the football building, and, you walk around to get there. But, I walk around campus sometimes, not a lot, because once we get here, too, don't forget, we got to prep for this show. We got to prep for the different outlets that we're a part of, whether it's College Football Live or Sports Center. So, it's just not like, we come to Baton Rouge and the only thing we do is game day Saturday morning. So there's a lot of other things that comes with us being here that we have to prep for, that we have to take care of. So I like to get out amongst the people somewhat, but I don't get an opportunity to do it because at the end of the day, it's still like a business trip.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know that people realize, Desmond, just how much you have to do on a Friday before game day. And I think that to me is sort of the interesting aspect of things. Like you said, this is not hey, we show up, we go on set on Saturday morning, we do our bit, and then that's it. Your Friday is typically as busy as anyone's.
Yeah, Friday is actually, it's a tremendous amount of work to do on Friday. Normally, my schedule is like this. I get up, I try to get a workout in if I can, depending on where we are. I try to get a workout in, but I have to do a Sports Center hit, and somewhere in between the 8 and 9 a.m. hour. And then after that, I have a production meeting, and that can just last for an hour and a half or an hour and 40 minutes. After that, I may have some more hits to do on television. Then we meet with the local media, too. So just about everywhere we go, we have a slotted time where, it can be Kirk Herbstreit, it could be Reese Davis, or myself. We'll meet with the local media, and we'll talk to them. And then after that, I try to do some more prep work. I have to get ready to do College Football Live. I do that every Friday afternoon with David Pollack and Maria Taylor. And then after that, I finally try to get something to eat. And if I hadn't worked out in the morning, I try to get my workout in after that. And then, got to start prepping for a 3-hour live show the next day. And don't forget, we got Friday night games, too. So those games are games that you got to kind of pay attention to. We've had some very, very good Friday night games so far this season.
Talking to Desmond Howard from ESPN College Gameday. Des, when Saturday comes along, what time are you waking up typically? Because there's kind of a pre-show and then the real show hits. What's your Saturday morning schedule look like?
Yeah, my Saturday morning, I try to keep everything on Eastern Standard Time for the most part. Now we're on Central. So here I'll probably get up around 5:30, get to the location around 6:30, 6:45. Then I actually do a Sports Center hit which is 8 Eastern, which would be 7 local here. So I do a Sports Center hit at that hour, at that time, and then just get ready for the 3-hour show after that.
Tell me what it's been like. Forever Game Day was Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit and Lee Corso, and then you came in and Pollock came in, and you kind of expanded the roster, and then Reese Davis now is in for Fowler. Tell me what that camaraderie has been like when you are, you're the new guy at one point, and then now Reese Davis is the new guy. What's that been like trying to develop that chemistry?
I tell you what, the chemistry is the most important element of our show that makes it successful, and I believe that everyone that's a part of it understands that, and in coming in, they have an appreciation of how important that is to the success of the show. So it's not just enough that, each individual that you just named has a really strong love for the game. Like, everyone just we all love college football. Like, we're just college football junkies, right? But then, in order to get the product that we put out, you have to understand how important the chemistry is with everyone on the set. And I think that's something that a lot of people, I don't think, really get. And I give you credit, Patrick, for understanding that, because that's one of the key ingredients to our show being so successful. And each individual who you see on air understands that.
Well, look, as a play-by-play guy, I know, in my every week in and week out, you have to have that chemistry with your broadcast partners, or else it'll never work. I want to point out a particular part of that chemistry, and that is everyone's relationship to Lee Corso, because Lee is one of the great legends of college football at this point. He was one of the originators of College Gameday. We all know he suffered a stroke. He sometimes, deals with struggling a bit, trying to get everything out. But I love the way that Kirk and you and Reese, I love the way that y'all protect him in a way on the air, that you make sure that he's giving out, you're helping him get out the information that he wants to get out, because it's all there. It's all still in the mind, but it's just a matter of trying to get it out. I love that dynamic with the way y'all all are with Lee Corso, because he is a legend and deserves to be treated as such.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head with that. What you just said was perfect, because he is a legend. He's a guy who we have so much love and respect for. That it's actually, I learned a lot from Lee. I mean, Lee helped me to understand that this is entertainment. This is entertainment. You kind of get caught up in just the seriousness of it. Just being, I don't want to say not being accurate, just being so serious about the subject matter. But Lee was a guy who helped me understand that, this is entertainment, but this is our vehicle. Sports, college football is our vehicle for getting our information across. But don't forget, you're entertaining these people, and you're telling stories too. You're in the business of telling stories. So, I mean, he just has so much knowledge and so much wisdom. It's really an honor to be able to share the desk with a guy like Lee Corso.
We're talking to Desmond Howard from ESPN. All right, Des, let's talk about this LSU Florida game. Obviously a huge matchup, maybe the biggest in all of college football this week, although maybe Oklahoma and Texas would differ. But this is a big one. I'm not going to ask you to tip your pick. You're going to do that on Saturday. But give us some idea of what are some of the matchups you are looking forward to watching that are maybe some of the key things that we, the audience, need to be looking for that might determine how this game ends.
Well, I tell you what, Patrick, as a former wideout, I'm just giddy about watching Florida's defensive backs, their secondary, against LSU's passing game. I mean, what Joe Burrow has been able to do so far this season has been just magnificent, just miraculous when you compare it to where he was a year ago. And with Joe Brady, who they brought in from the Saints as the passing game coordinator, has been able to bring this offense. Has just been really something fascinating to watch. So you're looking at, I mean, it's not like Joe Burrow only has one spectacular receiver at his disposal. I mean, they go three deep, and any of the three can hurt you at any time. So when you have a passing attack that I think they're like second in the nation right now in passing offense, averaging 416 yards per game. I mean, it's unheard of for the LSU Tigers. But, going up against another SEC team now that prides itself on having not only a strong defense, but a very talented secondary, too. So that's one of the key matchups that I want to see, just because, obviously, I'm a former receiver. But the battle in the trenches is going to be something to keep an eye on, too. I mean, LSU's offensive line against the Gators' defensive front, that's where it all starts. And I read something the other day that the center from LSU, Lloyd Cushenberry, had printed out statistics from the last time these two teams met, and he said the reason that LSU lost was because of the offensive line play. So he puts it all on the shoulders of the guys in the trenches, and he wants them to remember what happened a year ago so it doesn't happen again on Saturday night.
You mentioned being a former receiver. Obviously, we all know that. We remember, of course, a dynamic return man as well. But do you wish you were playing now with these offenses that college football's running out there?
Oh, but it would be fun. There's no doubt about it. I don't say I wish I was playing with these offenses that are really receiver friendly, to say the least. But it would be a lot of fun because, man, I think I would be able to put up some pretty good numbers in some of the offenses that these teams are starting to run nowadays.
No doubt about it. I'm curious, do you believe that, to me, the major issue for Florida is going to be that Joe Burrow is incredibly hard to blitz? I actually had some inside info. The school that I call games for, our defensive coordinator actually had Tom Herman as a GA at one point in his career, and they called Texas after that Texas-LSU game, and Texas's defensive coaches said, look, we blitzed, we got guys running free, but we couldn't get to him because he's getting rid of the ball. To me, it feels like if Florida can't get pressure with their front four and start to have to bring blitzers, I think they're going to be exposed because Burrow has been such a good decision maker. Do you feel like that's a somewhat accurate read of what might happen?
Yeah, I believe that's one side of the coin. I think if you spoke to the Gators defensive coordinators or defensive coaches, what they would say is the counter that point is that our secondary is more talented than the Texas Longhorns secondary. And I couldn't even knock that argument because if you look at the Longhorns defense right now, especially their passing defense, they're like one of the worst in the FBS period. We're not talking about one of the worst in their conference,
right.
The Big 12. They're one of the worst in the nation. So, though that was a hell of a performance that night, actually by both quarterbacks too, because don't forget, LSU gave up a lot of yards, a lot of points that night too. That was kind of like a Texas shootout that night.
Yeah.
So,
trust me, Desmond. We heard enough about it here in Louisiana.
Yeah.
I believe me.
Yeah. So I think that would be the counterpoint that the Gators supporters would probably come back at you with.
Yeah. Desmond Howard from ESPN. All right, so you're a Michigan guy, so I do have to ask you about Michigan. Obviously, Harbaugh is a Michigan man as well. Tell me about what you see going on with the Wolverines. I have said multiple times, Desmond, I think Harbaugh's a little bit like Les Miles. I think he can't help but tinker with the offense, even when he promises offensive changes. I think he keeps wanting to go in there and do stuff his own way, the old school style, so to speak. When you look at Michigan, what do you see, and do you think Harbaugh is a guy that can be progressive when he keeps promising these newer, more modern offenses?
Yeah, well, there's a lot on the meat. There's a lot of meat on that bone when you talk about Michigan so far in the season, what I've seen. I would just start with, they went out, and in his attempt, Coach Harbaugh's attempt to be that progressive coach, he went out and got a Josh Gaddis, who was on the staff with Nick Saban, on Nick Saban's staff at Alabama. So he went and got Josh Gaddis, who was supposed to be a guy who was on the rise, bright offensive-minded coach. And so I think that kind of answers that trying to be progressive question. And then it just seems like it hasn't clicked so far, whether it's the offensive line, whether it's the play of Shea Patterson, whether it's the turnovers, whether it's the pre-snap penalties. It just seems that it hasn't been able to click at this point for various reasons. You can't just point the finger at one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of blame to be taken as far as to be placed as far as like the offense is concerned. One thing that a friend of mine was telling me was that Josh Gaddis was on the staff at Penn State, and he was there with Joe Moorhead. And when they were installing the same offense, Penn State had similar struggles.
Yeah.
And, started off really slow and ended up getting blown out of the waters by Michigan early in the season. And at that point, people were calling for James Franklin's head, the head coach, talking about he should be fired. But once it clicked, and they were virtually unstoppable, and they ended up winning the Big Ten and win the Big Ten championship. So I think that's kind of what people are waiting for it to click and see what it looks like once they start to get it. Unfortunately, they're in the season where people are really looking at Michigan and Jim Harbaugh because they thought this was going to be the year. So you don't have a lot of time to try to figure this out, even though it's a brand new offense. But, those of us who cover college football for a living, we understand when people bring in when a coach brings in a new offense, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, and you're going to have your bumps and your bruises, and, you're going to have your bumps in the road. So it is what it is at this point.
Absolutely. Desmond, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. Have fun in Baton Rouge. Hey, one thing, if someone hands you something to eat, don't ask what's in it. Just eat it. It's going to be good, I promise.
Okay, thanks for having me.
All right, thank you. Desmond Howard, ESPN, joining us. Good stuff, good stuff. Let's take a break. We'll come back.